Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business of Business podcast. I'm your host, Roy. Of course, we are the podcast that brings a wide variety of guests that can talk about a diverse set of topics, try to maybe help see some things that you weren't aware of, or actually provide some help for some things that may be keeping you up late at night. And so today is no different. We have an awesome guest. I've been waiting for a while to get him on. So thank him for his patience in being here. But Femi Doyle-Marshall, he is a serial entrepreneur, mentor, author, and founder of REBOOTX Academy, the go-to source for entrepreneurial, personal, and professional development. He works exclusively with coaches, super entrepreneurs, and experts who are needing to break through clarity, confidence, and money blocks to build a better business and life. Femi is obsessed with studying and applying patterns that produce personal and professional breakthroughs to create transformative, long-lasting growth and success for himself and his students. Femi, we appreciate you taking time out of your day. I wish we'd have got this conversation. You know, we had pre-show, awesome conversation. So I'm really looking forward to this. This is going to be great. Before we get too far off into all of the professional stuff, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you found yourself here. And then also, you've got a lot of community awards. I want you to mention some of those. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it in big enough type I could read. It was bleeding together. So please go ahead and let us hear some of those as well.
Yeah, no worries. I want to say thank you for having me on here because, having an outlet to connect with other purpose-driven entrepreneurs is an asset. I think when you're building a business, having a space that you can share your thoughts and having a community of like minds is transformative. So thank you for having me on here. But yeah, no, I think if I were to start off who is Femi, what's my background, what's my experience, I've been in entrepreneurship from the age of 16. Launched my first coaching business from then, really with just following gut, following intuition, not knowing where it would lead me to, and kind of started with working with my teachers in high school. I actually was an athlete for a number of years. Backstory from that was had a really bad injury, broken tibia, fibula, which is like the lower leg.
Yeah.
Was in a full leg cast in high school in a wheelchair. And I was just wheeling myself to the gym, started doing pull-ups. Teachers are like, this kid is crazy. And like, can I work with you? And I was like, okay. And I was maybe 16, 17 at the time. And that started my first business. And I went from working with my teachers in high school to running corporate programs, doing stuff with like FedEx and things like that for corporations, running specialty disability fitness programs, building my team out, and really just was obsessed with understanding how to operate a successful business. And from there, I was doing like print companies at the same time. I was doing like distribution for apparel at the same time. So I was supplying my own company and supplying other businesses. And that kind of just led me to where we are today. But I think even before we get to the entrepreneurial path, like you said, community and impact was probably one of the biggest things I've always focused on. So ranging from being the Lieutenant Governor Lincoln M. Alexander Award recipient, that was for basically raising funds for different communities that required more knowledge for health, more knowledge for diversity, and really building and bridging the gap for diversity when it comes to culture, for fundraising, things like that. We raised, I don't even remember how much money we raised, but I raised quite a number of dollars for my high school when I was 16, 17 at the time. And from that to Bob Marley Day Award recipient, published my first book in 2018 as well. And all of these things just kind of came from the idea that community is important. Like you can't, like we talked about it before the show, but you got to give back because somebody helped you get to where you are today. So
exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of my path. And like I said, I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah. And I think you're so right that there's so much to unpack there. Number one, how do we be successful? I think the first thing we can do is defines success. It's not always the biggest business, the most money. Sometimes we can get to the end of that journey and feel very empty. So, I can only speak for me personally that I think, those relationships that we have, and, that's not only our family, but our friends, our colleagues, our clients. I mean, everybody, they're, and, I just, one of the benefits of doing this podcast is not only meeting, like awesome people like yourself, but meeting people from across this globe. And it's not like they're just people in my backyard. And, we have a young lady that we met in Australia that her husband ended up being here in Austin, Texas. And so we ended up meeting and having dinner, and it was a great time. But this is somebody who, we basically met online and formed this friendship. So, what a time to be alive that we can do those things. It's just incredible. But anyway, I think, talking about defining that success is one thing, but then giving back, because our community that surrounds us is so important in our daily life, that we, helping kids develop at school, or, helping the neighbor that can't get out and mow the yard, whatever that is, however it looks for you. But there are ways that we can all give back.
What's so interesting about that is, like, as you're saying the concept of like giving back, I'm realizing that's kind of what I'm doing now with the academy. I didn't really think of it that way till I'm hearing you speak, and I recognize that when I launched my first business from the age of 16, I didn't know the source. I didn't know where to find information for branding. I didn't know how to market. I didn't know how to sell. I didn't know how to set up the right structures. I didn't know you should have a cutoff time to protect your health. I didn't know. And these are the things. It's crazy to think about it, because you're not thinking about it when you're like a startup or you're an entrepreneur. You're like, I got this vision. I'm going to build this dream. I'm going to make it happen. But very rarely you have somebody that's on your corner that has gone through being broken, being burnt, being like, hey, you don't want to end up on this side of the equation, because like it's not pretty. You know
Right.
what I mean? And I think someone looks at me, they're like, you're young, but the amount of experiences I've went through already, personal and professional, it kind of allows me to look at someone and be like, if you keep going down this path for like another 365 days,
Right.
you're going to wish you weren't, because you could pivot and be in a much better position of power and find peace and balance all at the same time. So I never really looked at what I'm doing now as giving back to, but now I'm actually seeing it just from talking to you today. So thank you for sharing that too.
Yeah, yeah. The cutting off to protect our health, it's important. We talked about a lot pre-show, but that's one thing we covered is, and I have to, I'm the first one to stand up and take responsibility for my actions and say it's hard, and it's an ebb and flow. There's times in my life where I've understood it more than others, and then it's I'm also a victim of liking what I do a lot and feeling very passionate about it. So I don't feel the drudgery of like, oh my gosh, I'm working. It's like I'm excited to do this, and then I've got 12 other things I want to do. And then you figure out, as you work through those, it's like more stuff comes up, and, you could just get caught up. But, I think what I started feeling was just a little drugged down, not sleeping well, kind of cloudy in the mornings. And so it's funny that, the time we're taking here is this week is I said, look, I'm getting back to cutting things off at a reasonable hour in the evening, going to get to the gym every day, going to, get some exercise, start watching the water intake, all these things that, instead of living on caffeine, trying to stay up and motivated. So, but it's a different perspective that, I feel my mind is much clearer, thinking and probably making better decisions, and then also being more productive in that time allowed.
Exactly. And I think what most people don't realize is productivity isn't just an app, like it's not just you writing stuff in your journal.
Right.
A lot of the things you need to do, it really starts from within yourself that can help you achieve those breakthroughs in your business. I'll share the story kind of like for me of how the academy really started. So it might have been, it was probably just 2018, right? So yeah, it was the end of 2018. I was just about to finish write my book. Um, and I remember I was in this period where the health and fitness business was growing. I was outsourcing all the work. We're literally signing up more people. It like everything was moving in the right direction. I was driving 1 hour to the location, 1 hour back every day. So that's 2 hour commute. Okay. Now, what I wasn't seeing that was happening was I started to pile on, as you're saying, more work. I would get something done, then I'll add in like 3 other tasks to the list. And I would keep doing that every single day, not having a cutoff time. I'm going to stop work at 8 o'clock today, end up stopping at like 11:30 at night. Like that was being consistent. An opportunity came up where someone asked us where if we would come into their location and expand the facility. And I saw that as a great opportunity to grow the brand. Like, let's go. Let's move everything over. In 1 week, I moved the entire location. So I moved my team, I moved all of the members, everybody in like a week. That was when everything changed drastically. I was in the studio one day running a session, working with a client, and this was probably one of the busiest days. Like there was like 4 or 5 people running back and forth. I was training one of my team members that we just hired how to facilitate the program. There was somebody in who was on a trial that we're just going to sign up. And there was somebody at the other side of the studio that I was going to talk to them about signing up. And all I remember is while they were moving back and forth in the facility, I'm about to talk to the new person about what it's like to work with us at this location. And I just feel a sharp pain shoot down the right side of my head, all the way down my arm. Out of nowhere, just sharp pain. I couldn't stand. I had to hold onto a bike. Realized I actually couldn't move. I had to sit down. And then I couldn't talk. Now, to put in perspective, a number of years before that, my mother had a stroke. So I kind of recognized these are very similar symptoms of what really could be happening. Now, putting into context, I moved a whole new location in a week. I have more people to sign up because this is a growing business. I have team members to train because I'm looking to outsource my work. I have all of these responsibilities, plus I'm newly married. All of these things are like bottled in at the same time. Roy, it came to a point where I'm sitting down on this bench and the members are coming by to like, Femi, are you okay? And I'm like, no, like, I'm not. They're like, you want water? I'm like, I actually can't move. And they're like, what do you want to do? I'm like, call my wife. Called her. I couldn't get to the office. They had to walk me to the office because I couldn't walk.
Wow, how scary.
It was terrifying. Told my wife what was happening. I broke down because I realized my body broke down. And she's like, get to the hospital. I got to the hospital. My blood pressure was like 190 or some ridiculous. It was high. Like it was high. I couldn't actually walk into the hospital, so they had to wheel me in a wheelchair. I was out of work for 4 weeks. 4 weeks. Fortunately, it wasn't a stroke. And my wife and I call it now a stress attack, but it's a wake up. That was my wake up call where it was like, my health is important. At the end of the day, right? If your clock is called, it's like, okay, it's your time. What are you going to look back on? Are you going to look back on and be like, I'm in this place and I signed up 5 people, and I like, no, it's what's the impact I made? How did I transform these lives? How am I, what's my quality of life going to be like? And I realize a lot of entrepreneurs are in that situation where they're putting crazy hours into something. We were talking about it, crazy hours into this post you got to do, and it has to be released in like 10 days. But is that really where you should be putting your time and energy? Like, did you go for a walk today? Did you pick up the phone and talk to that friend that you said you needed to talk to? Did you take time to meditate and reflect on your real goals? Like, those are things that most people don't talk about. They think it's just for vision boards. But if you don't have a vision of where you're going nowhere. Like,
yeah, and I like to kind of liken it to speeding down the interstate. You can drive 90 down the interstate and you may get to where you're going A little bit faster, typically not that much, because if you're spreading it out over days and days, maybe you cut some time. But let's just say cross town driving 90, not going to shave much time off. But you think about when you get pulled over and how much time you have to waste getting a ticket, or at least talking yourself out of one, or however you resolve it, you think, is the time that I thought I might save worth the time that I just gave up? And we have to think about that with our health. I think, you know, because I got 5 extra things done today, does that make up for 2 weeks that I'm recuperating from some catastrophic event? Or, like yourself, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. And unfortunately, there's some people that never come back from that. So you have to really think about what is the value of doing that one more thing versus what could it take away.
There was a conversation I had with one of the students in the academy where they were focusing on getting clients, right? And I never forgot. This was a brilliant conversation. There's different activities we go through, just kind of like reflect on where you should be focusing your time and your energy for your business, your work, and your life, right? So they were doing really well in their business, online, growing it, all that stuff. And the conversation kind of popped up where they're like, I don't really need to focus on the personal aspects of things, right? I don't really need to focus, I just want to focus on the professional, the business aspect of things. And I was listening. I'm like, okay, that doesn't make sense, but okay, that I hear you. And I said a line to them where I said, with the people that you've been focusing on for your clients, are you sacrificing your peace of mind for that dollar? And I just heard them just go silent. And I'm like, think about it for a second, right? Are you sacrificing your sanity, your clarity, your peace just for that dollar? Is it worth it? What if, and I like playing this game, what if you got rid of all those people? Not that they're bad people, but they might not be a fit for you, right? And this is where I think about branding and marketing and positioning and all that stuff, right? They may not be a right fit for you, but what if you start speaking the right language to the right people and you charge the right rate that is in alignment,
right?
The value you're providing. Wouldn't you find more peace of mind, more sanity, more clarity at the same time? And that one thing changed their entire business. I think at that point, they doubled the prices of what they were charging people for programming. And I'm like, but that's not what's talked about when you think about business. Most people are talking about selling. Most people are like marketing. Most people, right. But when you go home, are you okay? Like when you're not selling, are you calm? Are you at peace, or are you thinking I got to make a sale? That's not okay. Like,
yeah, and I think starting out, we have that. Sometimes we have that mentality about, we have takers, people beat us down on price, and we're like, oh, I really need the business, so we do this, and then and a lot of this depends on the business, the product, the service, and all of that. So this is kind of an in general statement that we have to fine tune that to have our service at the right price. And it may not be right for everybody, but if we have a good service or product and it's priced right for the group that we want to attract, it's much better than having. And because the other part of that is, I've had to fire clients before, and it's not fun, but there are some people that just, they got a good price, but they're taking up more of your time with these little add-ons or this, more hand holding or whatever that is. And sometimes you just have to say, look, I've been reduced to minimum wage. Now I've got to do, we got to take some action here. And sometimes that's just, you can do it professionally, but sometimes that just means separating.
Yep. I've mentioned this so many times where you got to protect your state. You got to protect your state. You got to protect your space. You got to protect what it is that you're building for yourself, right? Like every entrepreneur has built a business with a vision of some sort of freedom, right? They want to create, and this is the funniest thing. I remember I was in this building one day and I was talking to another entrepreneur. Ironically, both of us are entrepreneurs in the elevator at the same time. And he's like, oh, you're an entrepreneur? And I was like, yeah. I'm like, are you an entrepreneur? He's like, yeah. And he's like, wow, you have the best and the worst boss at the same time. And I was like, wow, that's actually true. That makes
Yeah.
sense, because
Yeah.
we will set a target, change the target. We will bend the rules, but no, it's not in alignment to who we are. We used that word earlier. Like, it's not, it just doesn't feel right, but we'll do it for right now and then justify it. It costs you something though. And I want to share that point. Like, every time I'm on a call, I have like, what is the vision of the academy right next to me? So like when I'm talking, I know why I'm here, what I'm sharing. And the biggest thing I'm looking at is, when you're at alignment, it becomes a lot easier to be authentic with your actions, authentic with who you're interacting with, authentic to become an authority, authentic when it comes to marketing, authentic when it comes to changing the price point or letting somebody go and say, hey, you're an amazing individual. I just don't think now is the right time for us to work together.
Right.
Boom. Right. But if you're not really working on yourself on a personal level, then professionally, those types of conversations are near to impossible to have.
Yeah. 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 And we are the hardest on ourselves typically, and I've talked a lot about this, that, if I had 10 things on my to-do list today and I got 7 done, and I can't be happy with that, I will focus on these 3, that we didn't get done, and, beat ourselves up or work late, do whatever. And, if we're prioritizing our activities and our to-dos correctly, we should be happy. I mean, if I could hit, 700, I'd be a gazillionaire, playing baseball right now. But, as an entrepreneur, it's like, well, that's, not total failure, but it's like, oh, that's a fail today. And it really isn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we are our own worst enemy sometimes with that, with our self-confidence and that self-talk. I don't think we talk about this enough, but what's that little voice in your head always saying? I'm not good enough because I didn't get these 3 things done. I missed that last sale because of who knows what. But, we have to flip that switch and always be like, hey, good job. You got 7 done. That's why we're going to be here again tomorrow. We'll get the other ones done.
There was something I mentioned on another show that is what I call my secret weapon when it comes to creating clarity and really growing my brand and the businesses that I've built. And it really has been a part of my life for a number of years, but I didn't really realize what it was till like the academy started. And I call these things R2s. They're called R2s, and they stand for Reboot Rituals. So here's what most people do. Most people just wake up, they might have a coffee, they might have a tea, and they might scroll on their phone already and get distracted, right?
Yeah.
And not realize there's certain rituals you can do, there's certain routines you can do that can prepare you to be aligned for the rest of the day.
Right.
Most people don't think about that. What are the thoughts going through your mind? Are you putting in thoughts that will move you forward or move you backward from the beginning of the day, right? Are you doing things that will improve your health, improve your finances, improve your spirituality, improve your family relationships from like the beginning of the day? If you're not thinking of those things, what ends up happening is you just start the day, you have the planner, you write stuff down in the planner, it becomes a checklist. And a checklist doesn't really lead to fulfillment. It's just you're knocking stuff off the list.
Right.
So I know for me, that has been one of my most valuable tools, utilizing R2s on a day-to-day basis, looking at my schedule and being like, am I of the right state of mind to have this conversation with this prospect, right? Am I in the right state of mind before I hop onto this interview, into this podcast? Am I in the right state of mind before I make this sales call? Am I in the right state of mind before I make this content? Like, these are things that allow you to start protecting your state a lot better and preparing you for success long term, not for like just the day, like
Right.
just like long term habit forming, pattern creation. I talk a lot about like pattern jacking, which is like taking patterns from people that are really successful that you want to duplicate. Pattern stacking, which is like you're kind of combining things together, and pattern mapping, which is like bringing it into your life so it fits well. But that starts when you having the rituals and the routines from the beginning. So
Right.
anybody's like, I don't know how to get my life on track. What are your rituals? Like, what are you doing when you wake
Right.
up, when you go to bed? How do you shut off when you're done working? That's a valuable thing to learn.
Yeah, and it's important. I think that starting the day, because I notice if I get up and I'm hitting my marks, my days go much better, much more productive than if I get off track. I may spend the rest of my day trying to get back on track and be less productive. And I think this gets, a lot of things I've implemented as of late, that meditation component. I try to do that to get the right mindset to start the day, and also to end the day. It's a great way to clear my head, to be able to sleep, because I notice when I go from thinking and working right to bed, I lay in there and it takes me a long time to kind of decompress, where if I could do my meditation, it's done. And kind of going back to something you said a little earlier about creativity, is that's another good reason for us to get up from our desk and go take that walk, because we stifle that creativity if we are just constantly scheduled. And that's not just me talking. There's a lot of scientific information and a lot of research that goes into that we need to schedule those breaks in our time. And you don't have to walk if you're not but that's where I tend to pick up, if I'm struggling with how do I say this, or an Excel problem I can't figure out, or just wanting to think about something new. If I will go for a short 15-minute walk, it just really opens up my mind.
Yeah. You need to create space for your mind to grow,
Right.
right? And I think like the belief of being a workaholic and working nonstop is a solution for business success is a lie.
Yeah.
Like legit a lie. Like if you ask these people, are they happy behind the scenes? They'll probably say they're not.
Right. Yeah. 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 And if you ask their loved one if they're happy with them, they will probably say not. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you need to take time away to reflect. You need to take time away to really just assess what's working, what's not working,
Oh,
right? And then have a strategic plan of action on what to do next. And I think that's where you need to create that space, whether it's your walk you're going for, or whether it's taking time. Like for me, like I love teas, so it's literally me making tea and letting it sit and steep. That process gives me space to thinking and decide, okay, what's happening? What am I really reflecting on right now? What do I need to change? What do I like? Do I like what's happening? Do I not like what's happening?
right.
Maybe I should do this over here. And then I come back to it and boom, breakthrough, like literally every single time. So we were talking about it. I just literally left, went to a different location for like a week, and came back. And the level of clarity I have right now for the business, and it's so interesting how these things happen. I would call that a reboot retreat.
Right.
You go away for a period of time, and you come back and you have a fresh mind and fresh eyes, and you're like, "Ooh, this doesn't feel right now, but I might be able to use it later." It's an asset. Like you can't just obsess over the thing and expect success to happen without creating that space for it to manifest. Like you need that.
Yeah, something else that I've been doing a lot more of is journaling. And I feel like it's not only journaling my day, but journaling my thoughts. And so when things aren't right, it's good to get that out. But also that creativity, like you were just saying, that I had this thought, but today's not the day. But, you know, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, a year from now, am I going to remember? And so, I use a combination of, I just use, like I take notes during these calls, pen and paper, can't beat it. But I
Yep.
also use a searchable dictation where I can put my notes in. I put smaller bites in through the day. And then that way, I can, if I can remember, if I can't remember exactly what I was thinking about on that topic, I can always search back through. So it's, as a businessman or as an entrepreneur, just as a person, this is really an awesome time. There's so many tools out there at our disposal to really help us with this productivity portion, or even with, helping to bridge the gap between work and the home, like the journaling. I think, I kind of do that with my meditation in the evening, and I feel like it's the best thing. Sometimes I can actually feel very drained after it. It's, you think you're
Yeah.
just thinking and maybe, or not thinking and writing, but you would be amazed at how just like everything kind of goes out of you.
When you're sitting there with all these ideas in your head, um, there's really nowhere for that to go.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of the stressors can kind of come into play, and it can end up doing more damage than good at the same point in time. And I think I have mine. Actually, we have planners over here. Like, we have Reboot Planners. And the big thing is, you need to be able to offload those ideas, those concepts. You need to be able to see what it is you're working on, why you're working on it. And not just, like I said, not just a basic task list, like having stuff that are significant to you, but then knowing, is this where I should be putting my time, my energy, my money right now? Right? Maybe it's not for right now. Maybe it's for like a week from now, or 2 weeks from now, or a year from now. But you have a place that you could go back and reference,
Right.
and go back and use that when it is the right time. So journaling is a powerful asset. Um, I talk about worship walks or meditation walks, or like being able to just take time and creating that space. You need to do that, and creating that a part of your lifestyle and your day to day, so you have that space to know where your next business ideas are going to come from. You need to know where I should be spending my next $100, $200, $500, or 1,000, 10K, whatever the number is you're spending for marketing and your time. Like, you need to create that space, or you're gonna forever feel like you're overwhelmed. Like,
Yeah.
it's not pretty. It's not pretty.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And you had mentioned earlier, I want to come back to that too, the a trusted group and surrounding yourself with people that we trust. Um, I'm fortunate enough, my partner is awesome, and she keeps me on track. When I overdo it and I'm not really knowing it, she doesn't mind tapping me on the shoulder and saying, enough is enough, time to step away. So, surrounding ourselves with people that we trust, that can give us honest feedback, that aren't just totally crushing us. But, uh, I think like business roundtables, I think that they're good. I think uh, maybe sometimes our pride gets in the way, that we are expected, or we expect ourselves to know everything and have a solution. But if we can meet and be a part of a like-minded group, and sometimes you have to be careful with pricing and collusion and things like that if they're in the same industry. But, there's a lot of times you can reach out to people that may be in a different town, that are in the same industry but not direct competitors, and have a conversation. I knew, because used to know a group of men that met, that, we were all in the same industry, different disciplines, and so we could help each other with what we were working on, feeding leads and just market intelligence. Like, hey, did you know they're building this new place over here? So it was a great for that. But also I could be like, I've got this situation with this employee. I've never bumped up against this. Have any of y'all? And somebody in the group has always been in a similar situation. So I'm not having to recreate this wheel. I'm not having to live with whatever's going on. You can get some really good feedback. And I just think it's well worth the time to take to build those relationships, not only for the relationship themselves, but also for the help, advice that it can give you in your business as well.
It's so true, because I think, like, one of the things I talk a lot about with students is the power of anchors, right? Like having positive anchors. And when I'm referencing saying anchors, I'm talking about people that are very close to you, that can help move your vision forward. Whether they're more knowledgeable in that specific field, or they might be a partner within that specific area that you're focusing on. It makes a difference, because I know, like I said earlier, when I first launched into entrepreneurship, I didn't have those tools. I had to go dig and search and find these environments that really could have helped me propel my success faster, right? And not just faster, but teach me where I could be going wrong. Like that is actually more valuable than you just trying to move quickly. Like knowing where to not step
Yeah.
is even more valuable. And I think believing that you're a silo and you're operating this thing by yourself and you don't need other people that are specialists in other categories to guide you can create more problems for your business and your life way more than you can even calculate. Like if I were to think back to if I had somebody that had a stress attack because they were working crazy hours and they were really growing their business, talking to me before I hit that point, it would have prevented me not being able to work for 4 weeks.
Right.
Right. If I had somebody that advised me how to position my messaging in a way to my market, I would be working with higher quality individuals at a faster level with my beginning businesses.
Yeah.
If I had somebody literally tell me, hey, you need to set time aside for your family because you have a new family. While I was growing that business in the beginning stages, that would have made everything we're experiencing right now happen a lot sooner. So you need people. Like I don't think that first off, to sell a product, you need more than you, right? Sell a
Right.
product or program, you need more than you. To learn how to sell a product, you need more than you, right? And to learn how to brand it, how to market it, you need tools, and these tools come from people. And if you have a very valuable circle of friends or contacts, which can become your anchors, that'll transform your life and your business forever. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing.
Yeah, and it just made me think about, we look at athletes at the highest level, and they all have a team coach to make sure that they're moving them in the right direction. But then I would venture to say most athletes probably have personal coaches that work with them outside of that to help them be the best them, to
Yep.
then be the best part of a team. And I don't know why sometimes we might lose our mind a little bit. It's like, well, I'm a business owner, entrepreneur, and I'm here I'm on my island. I don't need anybody else. But maybe I'm an awesome salesperson, but I don't know much about the marketing and getting my message out there, or the digital aspects, the mechanics of it. Maybe the other part I see a lot is so they're great at this discipline, but now all of a sudden they're doing the books, trying to do payroll. We get to the end of the year and it's a big mess. And so then we can kind of extrapolate to what we were saying earlier is like, okay, we saved some money through the year, but now we're paying twice as much at the end of the year to get all this mess straightened out. So, being able to not only reach out to talk to people, but also hire experts in the field that we need, something done in to propel us faster. Because I run into this quite a bit. I'm trying to do something new and I can spend 4 hours researching it. What did that cost me in time? What did that cost me taking my focus away from other things, where I could have reached out and probably hired somebody to take care of this and be done with it and be moving on.
What's so interesting is what you're saying connects to a lot of the stuff that I talk about. I highlight the importance of specializing, understanding what your unique gift, your unique ability is.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is not good at everything. Like that doesn't pan out. Like I don't do all of my social media posts, but I might write the copy for it, right? I don't do all of my engagement, for example, but I might have a team that works with me on it. I don't do all of my sales calls, but I might have another partner that does that for me. Why? Because there's certain things that I'm really good at that I specialize in. And I think that's what most people don't really think about. They might look at these massive other successful individuals and you're like, I want to be like them. And then you try to mirror and copy everything that they're doing by themselves.
Right.
And they end up getting a stress attack.
Yeah.
Right. Or they end up feeling they're not good enough and having these negative talks in their mind, but not really realizing there is a whole framework, a whole system that's established. And if you just specialize in your gift and your ability, you'll have the capital to actually outsource these things really quickly. And one thing I will share is like, when you're looking at creating that brand or that business, and you're looking to hire people that will make things go faster, I always recommend you should still do the groundwork in the beginning to know how it works. Because and this is just high level advice for anybody right now. Like, if you have not actually spent time to understand what you want your brand to look and feel to be like, then when you hire somebody to do that for you, they're just going to make a brand, but that brand might not speak to you. So you actually have to do some of the work so that when you put somebody in that spot, it just flows seamlessly. That is something that most people don't talk about. They're like, just outsource stuff, but you outsource the wrong stuff, then it's going to cost you more money because you don't know what you should be outsourcing. So yeah, support is a powerful thing to speed up what you want to do.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, we talked a lot about this pre-show, and I just, you don't have to be more personal than what you really want to be, but let's talk for a minute about trusting in ourselves, listening to ourselves, listening to the universe. And, you know, that kind of wraps, it's kind of all encompassing about, you know, knowing what we need, being present, you know, an honest assessment of ourselves and where we are, but also taking that time in order to, you know, not only for the creativity, but for other things, you know, that the universe gives us to, you know, be receptive of that as well.
Yeah, I'll touch on that. So, like, I'm a big believer in God and just following the path that might be outlined for you. And I think for me, you know, whatever you believe, whoever's guiding you, there's a purpose that's usually always bigger than you can't see. And if you're not listening to what that path is, that's usually where you start feeling overwhelmed. That's what I've noticed on several occasions. And I'll use the Academy for an example. Just before the Academy, I was highly overwhelmed. The business was growing, but I was overwhelmed. The other business. I was getting a feeling I was supposed to do something, but I didn't take action on it. I wrote my book 2 years before. At that point, I've been a year and a half, but I didn't believe that I could help people with just this idea. So I was focusing on the one thing that was already successful and not listening to the other path that I was supposed to walk down. Delayed it, got sick, delayed it, got overwhelmed, got stressed, got unhappy. Then the pandemic hit. Literally, as the pandemic hit, I couldn't operate that first business. Everything's locked down, everything's shut down. I'm trusting the process of what I need to do. So I'm taking time to reflect. This is why I talk a lot about reflection. Like, reflection is not a joke.
Yeah.
That's a part of my rituals, right? Reflecting. Kind of guided towards, you're supposed to turn this book into a course. And I'm like, how am I going to do this? All right, I'm not going to think too much about it. Launched the course. In the first 4 months, made some serious cash flow from the business. Invested in another program. 4 months after that, broke even on that investment. 3 months, I broke even on that investment. 3 months after that, invested in another program, broke even on that investment. Literally half the year into this year, and this is me just trusting what I need to do. I'm helping other entrepreneurs figure out how to brand themselves, how to sell themselves. Now, putting in perspective, I already was studying this stuff in university, right? I was already reading business, marketing, and sales books from the age of like 16, 15, but I didn't focus on this, right? I was focusing on health. 15 years later, this is actually where my special gift is. I'm literally telling people, okay, how do you actually differentiate yourself in the market, right? How are you actually communicating with your audience to a way that will attract them? Why are you focusing on this only? Why are you pricing your products too low and you're speaking to the wrong audience? But this took me trusting the process to end up here. I would not have known that I would be running an academy, helping entrepreneurs generate. I had one of the students made 40K rev in like 2 weeks.
Wow.
And a year before that, they were broke. That's what's crazy. Like other people that working for big corporations that are launching their businesses right now. Like I'm gonna say this, I didn't will this to happen, but it was a part of the process from the work that I put in from before. And if you're not listening to the path, odds are, as whoever's listening to this right now, is probably something's gonna resonate with them. They're gonna be like, man, that idea that I needed to do that I haven't taken action on, I need to do it right now. You got to do it. Whether it's your health, whether it's your finance, whether it's your spirituality, whether it's your family relationships, maybe it's an area in finance, maybe it's an area in your spirituality, maybe it's an area in your family relationships, maybe it's an area in your health, whatever it is, it's going to resonate with you. And you're going to be like, am I actually listening to this voice that's telling me to be better, to improve myself, to actually move forward? Or am I ignoring it to settle for something that's not good enough?
Yeah.
Like if I ignored that voice and didn't trust my gut and trust the process and have faith in what was going to happen, I would still be here waiting for studios to open.
Yeah. Well, which is kind of another step is that we have to take that first step. We may not have all of the answers, and I'm a big proponent in not falling into analysis paralysis, that, you know, we can analyze and try to get everything perfect before we take that step. But sometimes if we take that step, things become much more clear. You know, it's like, I think it's part of the momentum that if you're standing still, you have no forward momentum, but you just take the first step, that second step comes naturally. And so, and the other part of this is, I think that, you know, it will lead us down the path to the things that we may need to know more about. It'll say, oh, a little shortcoming here, I can do some research and learn about this. But if we'd have never taken the first step, we would have never known that we need to be looking into this. And, you know, again, it can take us all different ways. We just have to be mindful of that.
There's two things floating in my mind that I have to share. I can feel it. So the book that I wrote that's called Reboot is called The Path to Personal Breakthrough. Reboot, The Path to Personal Breakthrough. Now, what's really interesting about it is I wrote the book in 2 days.
Wow.
I didn't have an idea that it just, you know, I'm gonna write these things down, whatever. By trusting the process, I spoke the book out in 2 days, the entire book. You can't logically explain that. Like that's trusting the process. Right. And what's ironic is a year and a half to 2 years later, with the academy now here, I talk a lot about this concept called operating in the invisible, right? Operating in the invisible is that same territory that you talked about, Roy, of you not seeing what's supposed to happen next, but you just taking that step, and then the other step is shown where you got to go. Like it's literally that level. When we talked about how I launched this academy, you know, I actually made revenue. I doubled the revenue I made in 6 months this year from last year, which is crazy, right? Then I think this month I'm paying myself more than I've ever paid with all of my businesses. Crazy. This is a year in, right? Now it's a year. Taking my entire family, we're going to move completely to a different place. All of this came not because I had an idea. It was, okay, I got to trust this process and see what happens. And it just one after the other. And if you're not actually choosing to follow and have faith, like I was talking to one gentleman, I'm going to share this too, is you got to practice the activity of trust, right? This is a different concept, but it's, you got to practice the activity of trust, not on someone else, but on yourself first. Right. Like, do I trust myself that when 9 o'clock hits, I'll actually stop? I did enough work.
Right.
Right. Do I trust myself enough to be like, man, that price point of that program is crazy, but I'm going to make it work and it's going to transform my life forever. Right? I had someone else who joined the program that said, this is the first time they actually ever invested in themselves for personal development ever in their entire life. So they're taking a big risk. 2 weeks after they enrolled, they posted in the group, I started doing one of the activities and I broke down crying with joy because I didn't realize this area of my life that I've been neglecting.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you choose to operate in the invisible. When you choose to trust yourself and just see, okay, you talked about it. Where like, if it doesn't work, I can always go back. Like I could always do something else. Something like it's an abundance mindset, but it's an abundance action mindset. You know what I mean? It's a different spin on it. So life.
Yeah. And it's funny because, you know, sometimes we look at, we take failures hard, and, you know, as we should, we have to temper that, how hard we take them versus really taking a hard look at what happened. But I'll just say that, you know, there have been times that there's been a roadblock for whatever reason, and but it makes you turn to the left or to the right to be on a different path. And it's amazing because we never know at the time. We're like, why did this not happen like I thought? We can sit and dwell on it versus just saying, you know what, I don't know what it is, but I'm sure it's pointing me in another direction, and keep that positivity, because a lot of times it's like, oh, hit a wall, that's not going to happen. And so we can just sit and, let that eat us up instead of keeping moving. And which gets back to some things about, we call it not borrowing trouble, not worrying about things in the future. And there's such a good example of this the other day. Well, it's been a month or so ago now, but we had a situation, and I don't usually worry a lot or stay up at night, but this thing, something was supposed to happen tomorrow. I was up at, 2, 3 in the morning thinking about it, walking around pacing. And then guess what? It didn't happen. It just didn't happen the way I thought. And so, then it kind of makes you snicker and say, wow, look at all that wasted time and energy, putting this worry into something that never really even happened.
It's so easy. And this is where the concept of like, you got to find the things that can give you peace, right? And I'm so serious on this at a very high level now. Like, my wife reminds me, are you stressing yourself for no reason? And I'm like, oh man, okay, I gotta slow down a little bit.
Right.
But it's really the only thing that is valuable, right? Like, if you're not thinking about creating peace in your life, in your business, then you're probably creating chaos somewhere. Like that is literally that's it. Like, if the business model you set up is not focused on creating peace for you, it's creating chaos.
Yeah.
And I don't think, I'm straight up, I don't think there's a middle ground. Like, there really is no middle ground. Like, are you striving for peace or are you striving for chaos? Like, it's like you can't be, I'm in the middle. It may waver, but what are you striving for? And I think that's where most people miss the mark, because they're like, I gotta get this done. I gotta go do this thing. The funny thing is, I was literally on the same energy before the call, and my wife sat there with me, and she's like, "You went away for a whole week, but you came back. Stuff's still here.
Yeah.
Before you left, things were there. While you were away, things were there. You gotta have this." And I know you're from Texas, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So she's like, you got to have this town mindset, like this like laid back, not city mindset. You got don't have the city mindset. Be like, okay, today's whatever day, tomorrow's the next day, the weekend is here, then tomorrow, or then the next day is the weekend, the next week is the week. You have time. You can still get it done. it's still going to happen. You don't need to rush and consume yourself with stress, and it's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it, because in the end, you lose time, you lose energy, and you might very well end up losing money too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's in another investment we can talk about too. I think that, investing in our education, in our processes and procedures, we need to do all that. But the other thing, we can invest in ourselves. And I can just speak for me alone that when I take that time to go for a walk and exercise, I tend not to be as tightly wound. And, when I'm getting my sleep, when I'm eating right, drinking water, when I'm doing all the things I need to do to invest in my health, it seems to have a better outcome because things don't, uh, you know, maybe I just don't take them as hard, but things don't seem as harsh or as, as huge as, like, I feel like I can take it and roll with it and overcome without it being like a huge moment that we have to have some kind of a meltdown over.
you need outlets,
Yeah.
right? Everybody needs outlets, and you have to look at, are the things I'm doing constructive or destructive as an outlet?
Right.
Being human, there may be destructive aspects of your life, but how can you convert that energy to be more constructive and provide peace for you and not chaos? I really believe if anybody wants something to take away from now is what you're doing in your business and life creating chaos or peace?
Yeah.
And then really ask yourself, do I want more chaos or do I want more peace? Some people might love chaos. That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but you gotta decide, what do I want?
Right.
And focus on that thing.
Right. Well, Femi, I just looked at the clock. We are running way, way over. I appreciate your time. This has been such an awesome conversation. I mean, there's just so much there, but I'm going to let you talk for a minute, in just a minute, about how people can reach out and get a hold of you. But before we do that, we've talked about a ton of good habits, but what would you rank as, one of your top habits or processes, or a tool, maybe even an app or something that really helps add value through your day, professionally or personally?
For me, um, I would reference back to the Reboot Productivity Planner, right? So for years, I've used different time management systems. I've had apps, used different phones, different operating systems on the phones, and using calendar tracking and all of these different things. And I found that I was so bogged down with completing tasks day to day. Like I was literally like, I got to complete this task. I'm going to do this task. I'm going to do this task. And then I'd check mark 15 different tasks off of the list, but then I still would feel like I didn't do anything. Right? um, and that wasn't good. I found that transitioning towards that and creating this planner transformed my life. When I went away for that week, I realized I didn't write in it for like 10 days. And I'm like, wait a second, I need this thing to keep my mind clear.
Right.
Even if I'm focusing on, today I'm focusing on family, right? Today I'm going to spend time to go for a walk or watch a movie or something with my family. I'm going to go and focus on my workout at home. I'm going to do some pull-ups. All of these things you can flush out in this planner, and doing it on a day-to-day basis has boosted my productivity and a lot of the students that we work with. So that would be the biggest thing for me. And it's transformed my life, and it's transformed my level of clarity. So if you don't have the Reboot Planner, right, you can grab it, rebootplanner.com, my rebootplanner.com, you can get access to it there. But besides that, just having a planner and not focusing on like task lists, like actually thinking of what is significant to me, what do I need to get done that will make me feel fulfilled, versus just having 15 items, that's really transformed me massively.
Yeah. And you bring up another good point. Well, we could go on forever. I'll say one more thing, is that the other part is prioritizing that as well, because I think it's human nature. We want to tick off the easy ones first, and then we find ourselves at the end of the day, and we've got the one big thing that could really move the needle for us that we just didn't address. And it may be tougher, but everybody has their different period of the day. Some people are morning people, and that's best for them to hit it. Some are in the evening. But design your day to take on the tasks the large ones that are really going to move the needle and get that out of the way before we, do some of the more mundane things.
Yeah.
That will definitely be there tomorrow.
Yeah. No matter what day of the week, there's things you got to get done.
Yeah.
And I think the number one thing you need to take care of is yourself, your health, and everything else will fall into place.
Yeah. Make yourself number one for sure. All right, Femi, tell everybody, how can they reach out, get a hold of you? Tell us about how we could reach out and learn more about the RebootX Academy. And then also you could tell us, how can we reach out and get the book?
Okay. Yeah, no, definitely. If any of you are like, you know what, I'm a big fan of what you're talking about right now, you can check us out at rebootx.com. That is RebootX, so REBOOTX.com. And that is the official Academy website. So let's go to rebootx.com. If you want to chat with me or the team, you can definitely schedule a Better Brand audit. This is a Better Brand business audit. This is something that we launched not too long ago because we realized a lot of people may have a vision of success in their mind, but they don't know where their business currently is at. This gives you tools and clarity that you'll either chat with me or someone else on the team one-on-one to just kind of deep dive into what you've been building and how you can scale it up so that you're not burning out, feeling frustrated, and maybe even pricing your stuff at a level that gives you the freedom and flexibility you want. So rebootx.com, that will be the primary website. And those that are like, you know what, I'm definitely going to book that call, but I also want to grab a copy of your book because you wrote it in 2 days, which is kind of crazy. Just go to myrebootbook.com. So it's just myrebootbook.com, and it's free plus shipping. You grab the book, it's going to get shipped to your address. We should pretty much ship it international. I think it's like $9.95 or something like that for anywhere in the US just for shipping. And then for international, it's like $14. So we pay for the book, you pay for shipping, it's sent right to your door. You can read the book. You can message me after you get it. But yeah, like those are probably the two things. I'd say, let's chat, go to rebootx.com. Or if you want to grab a copy of the book, just go to myrebootbook.com. Those are the two primary things.
Well, thank you so much for giving of your time. I mean, that's one of the other thing we didn't really touch on is, time is one of the most precious assets that we all have. We can't get it back. So we are gracious that you took your time to come here and be with us. A lot of great lessons. Y'all reach out to Femi, see if him and his team can help you. If you need to reboot, kind of get things, maybe if you're a little bit discombobulated or feel like there's a lot of chaos in your world, see how they can help you get back on the straight and narrow. All right. Well, that's going to do it for another episode of the Business of Business podcast. I'm your host, Roy. Of course, you can find us at www.thebusinessofbusinesspodcast.com. We're on all the major podcast platforms, iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Spotify. If we're not on one that you listen to, reach out. Be glad to add it so you can listen easier. Also on all the major social media platforms. Probably hang out a little bit more on Instagram than anywhere else. So reach out to us there. We'd be glad to have a conversation with you. Also, a video of this interview will go up when the episode goes live. So check out our YouTube channel. Until next time, take care of your health and take care of your business. I had that wrong. Take care of your business and take care of yourself. All right. Thanks a lot.